Welcome to today's video where we will be diving into the key insights from the book Start with Why by Simon Sinek. This book explores the concept of discovering the purpose behind our actions and how starting with why can lead to greater success and fulfillment in both personal and professional lives. So, let's dive into the summary of this incredible book. But before we dive into the content, I kindly request a moment of your time to appreciate this video by liking it, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you so much. In Start with Why, Simon Sinek introduces the idea of the golden circle, which consists of three layers: what, how, and why. He argues that many businesses and leaders focus on the what and how of their products or services, but fail to communicate their why, their purpose or belief that inspires their actions. Sinek provides various examples of successful companies like Apple and Southwest Airlines that have effectively communicated their why to customers, employees, and stakeholders. By starting with why, these companies have been able to build loyal followings and create strong brand identities. Beyond businesses, individuals can also benefit from starting with why in their personal lives. By understanding our core values and motivations, we can make choices that align with our purpose and lead to greater fulfillment. Whether it's pursuing a new career path or starting a passion project, knowing our why can guide us in making meaningful decisions. One key takeaway from the book is the importance of authenticity. Sinek emphasizes that starting with why is not about manipulating others or using marketing tactics, but about being true to our beliefs and values. When we authentically communicate our why, we attract like-minded individuals who share our vision and values. Start with Why by Simon Sinek is a leadership book that explains the importance of identifying the purpose behind our actions. Using real-world examples, Sinek argues that successful individuals and organizations always begin by answering the question why. Before moving on to how and what, Start with Why tackles a fundamental question. What makes some organizations and people more innovative, influential, and profitable than others? Based on best-selling author Simon Sinek's hugely influential lecture of the same name, the third most-watched TED Talk of all time, these insights unpack the answer to that conundrum. As Sinek's examples show, it's all about asking why rather than what. Simon Sinek is a self-professed optimist determined to create a better and brighter future for humanity. An influential speaker and coach, Sinek has helped organizations around the world, such as Microsoft, American Express, the United Nations, and the Pentagon, inspire their employees. He is also the author of Leaders Eat Last and Together is Better. Start with Why by Simon Sinek is a book that explores the power of purpose and the impact it has on individuals and organizations. Here's why this book is worth reading. It presents a compelling argument for why starting with the why is crucial in inspiring others and driving success. By showcasing a range of real-life examples from successful leaders and companies, the book demonstrates the effectiveness of the why approach. With its thought-provoking insights and practical strategies, it generates a sense of curiosity and inspires readers to take action. Start with Why is Simon Sinek's mission to help others do work, which inspires them, and uses real-world examples of great leaders to show you how they communicate and how you can adapt their mindset to inspire others yourself. Simon Sinek's first TEDx talk from 2009 is now the third most watched TED Talk of all time, sitting at well over 25 million views. I first came across it in 2012 and was instantly hooked on the idea. The reason his mantra is so magnetic is that it's incredibly simple, yet very universal. Many of history's most inspiring leaders seem to have internalized his idea of the golden circle and communicate it the right way. Here are 3 lessons you should take away from Start with Why. If you want to inspire others, always communicate your why first. Excited employees are the best resource for any business. You don't need sleazy sales tactics when you start with why. Buckle up. It's about to get inspirational. Lesson 1. If you want to inspire others, always communicate your why first. This is Simon's key idea in a nutshell. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Every company in the world knows what they do, which is why it's the first thing they tell people about. But rationale is a weak way of trying to get us to make decisions, probably the weakest of them all. That's because emotions trump reason every time. When we make a decision based on a strong why, we own it. Only when we know why we do things, will we feel a sense of belonging. That's why it's a much more powerful way of getting us to decide. Once we are sold on the cause of an idea, we'll go above and beyond to support it with our money and time. And in the cases of some movements, even with our lives. Great leaders and companies naturally get this right. They start all communication with why they do things, eventually followed by how they do things. And they reveal what it is they actually do very last. Apple is a great example. First, they tell us why they're here to shake things up. Then they tell us how with easy-to-use, beautifully designed products. Finally, we find out what they make. Computers, phones, tablets, and MP3 players. By the time they get to their what, we're long sold on their cause and are ready to support them in every way we can. If you want to inspire others, start by telling them why you do things instead of what you do, and you'll see a massive change in engagement. Lesson 2. Excited employees are the backbone of the best businesses. Which business wouldn't want their employees to go above and beyond for the company's success? To do this, start by building your business around a cause. Then, assemble people who share your why. Instead of relying on big paychecks, threatening deadlines, or highly qualified graduates, look for the people who are already motivated by the same reasons as you are and inspire them even more. Who would you rather have working for you? Excel Pro Johnny, who's only here to collect his consulting fee. Or Lisa, who needs some time to learn, but wants to see the world change in the same way you do. Hire people for their cause, not their craft, and watch your business bloom. Lesson 3. When you start with why, there's no need for sleazy sales tactics. Why do companies use sales funnels, red discount signs, limited time offers, and social proof to trick you into buying their products? Because they work. But sadly, these kinds of psychological manipulations are just as short-lived as the joy these businesses get from making yet another sale. They don't create trust, but evoke skepticism, and they sure don't create trusting or loyal customers. When you start with why and just communicate from the inside out, you'll build a group of customers that trust you, true fans, 1,000 of which can make your business last a lifetime. They'll always prefer the product of their favorite creator or company over cheaper or even better solutions, because they believe in you and your why. So don't waste time with sleazy sales tactics. Spread your why and let true connections follow. Simon's TED Talk made me question a lot of things. It's one of the many bits and pieces that got me started on the path I am on today, towards freedom and work I'm passionate about. So first of all, go watch his talk. It'll change your life, or at least your perspective on it. After reading the summary of Leaders Eat Last already, this had to get a rerun. The set of insights is short, and I'm really curious to see more of the examples that were used there, and in his talk, I'm very much inclined to get the book. He also offers a course which looks interesting and includes a hard copy of the book. If you want to see Start with Why in action, look at the intro video of the course. Simon is a master of communicating his why. Those are the individuals who truly deserve to immerse themselves in this extraordinary book. Entrepreneurs building their brand. Self-starters in need of a bit of inspiration. Although there are thousands of successful companies and leaders, only a few ever really change the world. What makes these different from the rest? They start with why, the vision and mission behind their efforts. Starting with why yields benefits like a more inspired team, more loyal customers, and enduring long-term success. In Start with Why, learn how to discover your why and communicate it through your organization and to the outside world. Start with Why covers everything you need to know about creating an organization that puts its values at the center of its business. The core concept is simple and straightforward. Great businesses know why they're doing what they're doing, and they use that mission as their guiding principle. Given this goal, Start with Why covers 3 aspects of why. 1. Defining your why. 2. Understanding how your why affects your company on all levels. And 3. Making sure you stay focused on your why in the long term. Defining your why. Your why is your central belief. It's the concept that motivates you to get out of bed in the morning. In terms of an organization, it's the reason you're in business. The why leads to the how and the what. The why. This is the vision of your company. It's the motivation behind your service or product. It's the mission that you stand for. The how. The how are the practical steps you need to take to achieve your why. The how is the practical, operational knowledge that brings the vision to life. The what? The what is the product or service you're selling. It's the tangible part of your company, and it's also the easiest to identify. As an example, we'll use technology company Apple. Why? We think differently. We want to challenge the status quo. How? The way we do this is by making products that are easy to use, elegant, and well-designed. What? And we just happen to make computers as our products. The golden circle. These three elements form the golden circle. The golden circle looks like a target, where the why is the bullseye, the how is the middle ring, and the what is the exterior ring. When you start with why, you build your company's message from the inside out. As a result, customers want to engage with your product because they believe in it. They become loyal to you and your company, which builds your brand and spreads your message. Don't start with what. Unfortunately, most companies don't start with why. That's because starting with why is hard. It involves a lot of introspection, inspiration, vision, and clarity. Instead, most companies start with what. As the most superficial layer, it's the easiest to identify and communicate. As a thought experiment, consider Tom, a man going on a date. When he sits down, he starts with his what. I'm a really successful person. I own a BMW and my best friends are all CEOs or models. I'm rich and I can buy you lots of nice things. Obviously, Tom sounds obnoxious, the kind of person who wouldn't get a second date. Surprisingly, companies communicate exactly like this. Our product has the best features. Our customers are the biggest companies in the world. We're making a lot of money, and you should buy our product too. But customers don't buy what, they buy the why. Think about Tom starting with why. What gets me out of bed every morning is making an impact on people by solving their problems. It's the best feeling in the world. I'm also super lucky to get career success doing what I love. I've gotten to know lots of interesting people and I'm fortunate to be able to buy nice things. Inspiration versus manipulation. Because starting with why is hard, most companies turn to manipulations to sell a product. Manipulations are tactics that artificially influence customers to buy from your company or use its services. They include price, promotion, fear, aspiration, peer pressure, and novelty. Manipulations work, but they're only short-term solutions. They won't create loyal, repeat customers. Only inspiration can do that. Inspiration happens when a company shares its why. At that point, the company isn't selling a product, it's selling an idea. As a result, the company's communications are authentic. The company believes in its message, which comes across to customers. Those customers who share the same why are attracted to the company, and when the product is good, it establishes trust. That, in turn, brings in more customers and creates a repeatable cycle of success. Notable companies that focus on using their why to inspire include Apple, Southwest Airlines, and Harley-Davidson. Certain companies and leaders inspire people around them to achieve amazing goals. They mobilize people beyond using personal incentives and rewards. Instead, they make people feel a sense of purpose and belonging to a community. These effective leaders start with why. They communicate the purpose of what they are doing and the impact their work will have. Here are 3 examples of leaders who put their why first. Story 1. Samuel Pierpont Langley vs. the Wright brothers. Samuel Pierpont Langley had a goal. He wanted to be the first man to build a working airplane. He seemed like the perfect man for the job. He was a senior officer at the Smithsonian Institution, had been a mathematics professor at Harvard, and had secured a $50,000 grant from the War Department to help fuel his ambitions. Already an established man, he sought fame and glory. He wanted to have the same level of fame as a Thomas Edison. He wanted the result more than the why itself. A few hundred miles away, 2 brothers Will and Orville Wright had the same vision but none of the resources. Now that you've had a brief introduction to why a person, movement, or company's why is important, let's think of some other examples. We've seen 3 examples of people and companies that start with why, i.e. a core idea that motivates them and inspires others. Can you think of another example of a person, movement, or company that starts with why? What is their why? Here are the key chapters in this remarkable book, each holding valuable insights and captivating narratives that promise to engage and enlighten readers. Chapter 1: Trust Your Intuition. Business runs on a series of decisions. Whether it's deciding what to sell, who to sell it to, or how to staff your organization, leaders have to make tons of decisions every day. Many businesses and people rely on data to guide their decision-making. We obsess over discovering details, thinking this will lead to better decision-making. We read books and journals, go to trade conferences, and ask our friends for more information. But in many situations, more data doesn't help make a better decision. We're often tempted to think that a project didn't work because of some missing vital detail. But sometimes we have the entire premise of our information gathering incorrect, or we start with a wrong critical assumption. In these cases, no amount of extra data would have helped us make the right decision. Chapter 2: Manipulations Don't Work. All businesses need to motivate customers and employers to do something, whether that's buying a product or just performing a job. There are two ways we can motivate people to act: manipulation and inspiration. Manipulations use outside influences to get people to buy a product or service. They use the carrots and sticks model of behavior reinforcement. While manipulations may produce short-term gains, they don't create long-term loyalty. Inspiration causes a person to act from internal will, not from outside influence. Commonly, these people are inspired by a company's why. Inspirations encourage loyalty, and loyalty leads to repeat business. Lower prices induce people to buy, so companies engage in price wars and sell at rock-bottom prices. But price manipulation can be dangerous for a company. When a customer becomes used to paying a low price, it can be nearly impossible to increase the cost of an item. Chapter 3: The Golden Circle. Chapter 3 introduces the core concept of the Golden Circle, one of the fundamental concepts of the book. In essence, the Golden Circle is the embodiment of how you start with why. Defining the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle visualizes the structure of an organization and looks like a bullseye target with 3 rings. The bullseye at the center is the why, the next ring out is the how, and the largest ring is the what. When making decisions or communicating, you begin at the center with the why, then migrate out to the how, then finally the what. Let's define those terms in reverse order. What? This is the product a company sells, the service a company offers, or what a particular employee does. The what is what most companies talk about the most. It's easy to understand but superficial. How? This describes how the company accomplishes the what. Often, this is considered a company's differentiating proprietary process or unique value proposition. Apply the Golden Circle to your organization. Apply the Golden Circle to what you do. Start with why, go to how, then to what. Think about your business, organization, or your personal work. What is your why? Chapter 4: The Golden Circle's Biological Foundation. The reason Golden Circle works has roots in human biology. Humans want to belong, and the need is so powerful that we will often put incredible effort and money into achieving that feeling. Organizations that start with why clearly define who they are and what they stand for, and as a result, their products or services come to represent those beliefs. When those beliefs align with our own, it creates a sense of belonging and kinship. Buying their products makes us feel like we belong in the same group as other people who buy the same things and believe in the same ideals. For example, Apple's "I'm a Mac" and "I'm a PC" marketing put their beliefs front and center. They made it clear what type of person belongs in the Apple community. They're young, laid back, and question the system. In response, Microsoft launched their "I'm a PC" campaign, which showed people from all walks of life. This makes sense given that 95% of all computers are powered by Microsoft software. Trust your gut. When has your gut triumphed over your rational brain? Think about a time when your gut instinct triumphed over the more logical, rational choice when making a purchase. What was the outcome? How would the outcome have changed if you went with your neocortex or rational brain instead? Chapter 5: The 3 Principles of the Golden Circle. The Golden Circle is a powerful tool that helps you run inspirational companies or become a great leader. But the golden circle only works if all three elements, the why, how, and what, are in balance and used in the right order. Let's start by talking more about three key principles of the golden circle. Element number 1, clarity in why. Starting with why means that leaders need to be able to clearly articulate why they do what they do. Without a why, you have to resort to manipulations to get people to engage with your products or services, which only leads to short-term results. Leaders who start with why get people to follow them willingly instead. Element number 2, discipline in how. Discipline kicks in during the how phase. Remember that how applies to the values, principles, and operational structures that help you achieve your why. How you work lets you make decisions that support your why, like hiring the right people, creating purposeful policies, and finding partners that support your vision. But in order to do that, you have to have discipline. Operate with discipline and consistency. Is your business operating with a balanced circle in mind? Now that you know your organization's why, do you think your company clearly and consistently articulates its why? Why or why not? Chapter 6. Establish trust. Trust is a gut feeling. It exists in the limbic brain and can't be rationalized. That's why we trust certain companies even when things go wrong, and mistrust other companies even though they do everything right. And when people trust a leader or organization, they place a higher value on it. Sinek defines value as the transference of trust, meaning value is the result of people trusting in you, your product, or your company. Consequently, you can't rationally convince someone to trust you. You have to earn that trust by showing them that you share their values and beliefs. That happens when you clearly communicate your why. Once people trust you, they will follow you willingly. Trust and culture go together. Trust is important because it's also the foundational building block of culture. Culture emerges when a group of people who believe and value the same things unite around those shared ideals. When we are around people who think like us, we start to trust them. On an individual level, we form communities with people who share similar beliefs, values, and ideals. In other words, we form communities with people who share our why. Chapter 7. Create your own tipping point. So after you define your why and golden circle, how do you get your new product or mission to reach more people? In sum, by 1, understanding that different people will adopt your product at different stages of maturity. 2, finding your early adopters and gaining a critical mass of them. This chapter explains both concepts and how they apply to starting with why. Defining the tipping point and the law of diffusion of innovations. To understand the key points in this chapter, we have to define 2 key terms: the tipping point and the law of diffusion of innovations. Tipping point. The term tipping point was coined in Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point. According to Malcolm Gladwell, a tipping point is the point in a situation, process, or system beyond which a significant and often unstoppable effect or change takes place. Related terms for this include critical mass and inflection point. Tipping points happen when a mass of influencers unite to support an idea or a product. Start a tipping point. Reach the right people to create a tipping point for your new product or service. In the work that you do, who are the early adopters? Why does your why resonate with these people? What would make them become loyal supporters of your mission? Chapter 8. The Golden Circle Megaphone. Clarifying your why is well and good. But concretely, how do you achieve your why? Comes through building your how and your what. Without a strong how, inspirational why leaders have big ideas but struggle to execute them. An organization needs to be built to support and execute the why. Chapter 9. Communicating with the marketplace. Now that you're thinking of the golden circle as a 3-dimensional cone, it's time to talk about what that cone is sitting on: the marketplace. The marketplace is made up of all the customers, shareholders, competition, supplies, money, and all the other factors that make an economy work. The marketplace is characterized by chaos and disorganization. While your organization has structure and purpose, the world outside it doesn't. Chapter 10. Good communication is about listening. This chapter explains how an organization, especially a large one, can communicate its why to the marketplace effectively. This centers around 2 big ideas: the power of symbols and the celery test. The power of symbols. A symbol is defined as an object imbued with additional meaning. It's an object that represents an idea bigger than the thing itself. Here are two examples of powerful symbols. The United States flag. Literally, the flag is just a few pieces of cloth stitched together. But as a nation, Americans assign powerful symbolic meaning to it. It represents the beliefs of the country: freedom, equality, and opportunity. It's such an important symbol that people will follow it into war. Ronald Reagan's hero. In 1982, Lenny Skutnik was invited to sit in the House chamber during the State of the Union address. A few weeks earlier, Skutnik had jumped into the Potomac to save passengers after an Air Florida airplane crashed. President Reagan understood the power of symbolism, and Skutnik's presence was a powerful representation of American bravery and values. Chapter 11 to 12. How success separates you from why. So far, the book has covered how to take a company or organization without a clear why and put it on the right track. But what happens when a company has a why, but has lost it along the way? How success can negatively affect your why. Top executives and business owners have a common problem. When they were asked whether they felt successful, 80% of attendees said no. They all felt that as they became successful, they lost the thing that made their business special. The pattern. Although these leaders knew what they did and how they did it, they'd become disconnected from their why. The biggest hurdle any company will face is success. That definitely sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? After all, isn't success the goal behind starting with why? The problem is that as a company grows, leadership becomes more removed from the company's messaging. In terms of the golden circle, when your company grows, the rings of the golden circle get wider, which moves the leader with the passionate vision further away from making every decision for the company. When that happens, it's easy to shift focus from why to what. And before you know it, why starts coming. Chapter 13. Where why comes from. In this chapter, Sinek reinforces the process of following why by tracing it through three examples: Apple, the English longbow, and his own journey to becoming a mentor and coach. The Apple journey. Apple has put why first since its inception. When Apple first started, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs saw the company as a way to give individuals power. At the time, companies held a monopoly on computing, and Jobs and Wozniak believed that by empowering individuals with computing power, they could change the world. Igniting revolutions by empowering people became the company's why. Just like the company, all of Apple's products and their launches have started with why. The Blue Box. While this product never made it to shelves, the Blue Box was designed to help people avoid paying long-distance rates on phone bills, which were exorbitant in the 1970s. Although the product was definitely illegal, it certainly embodied their belief in empowering people to take on corporate forces. The Apple I computer. Launched in 1976, Apple entered a market that was dominated by IBM, but instead of giving corporations the tools to maintain power like IBM and Apple. Chapter 14. Rethinking competition. The common sentiment when it comes to building a business is that you have to make sure you're beating the competition. But the problem with that idea is that it makes you focus on what other companies are doing rather than steering your own. Instead of competing against others, it's more effective to compete against yourself. Here's an anecdote of Ben, a high school cross-country track runner. He was the slowest on his team because Ben was born with cerebral palsy. Running was hard for Ben, but he pushed himself to finish. Have you ever heard of Puget Sound? If you're not from the Pacific Northwest or a distinguished connoisseur of naval shipyards, the answer is likely no. So when the TEDx conference happened there in 2009, in an inconspicuous room that seated slightly more than 100 people, it wasn't a big deal. The first speaker of the night was a no-name, a law school dropout who'd gone into marketing. And his microphone didn't even work properly until it was suddenly switched on mid-speech. But listeners soon realized that there was something captivating about the guy. The room was so silent you could have heard a pin drop. The audience was that captivated. At one point, he drew 3 concentric circles on a whiteboard. In the middle, in big, fat letters, he wrote a single word: why. Then he uttered a sentence that he would go on to repeat endlessly throughout not only the talk but also the rest of his life. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. No one realized it at the time, but this would become the third most clicked on TED Talk of all time. The title, Start with Why, How Great Leaders Inspire Action, and the name of the speaker, Simon Sinek. In the chapters that follow, we'll be walking you through the book that followed Sinek's famous TED Talk and which has the same name. At this point, the book is just in its teenage years, but it's already a classic. If you want to start a business or become a leader, there's no way around it. In this insight, you'll learn two things. First, how to come up with an inspiring vision. Second, how to communicate it. In his talk and his book, Sinek often used Apple as an example and will do the same. Here's what to expect. We'll lay some groundwork, explaining how inspiring leadership works according to Sinek and what the three concentric circles, also known as the golden circle, have to do with it. Then we'll get practical and you'll get some tips on how to apply it in your everyday business practices. That is, how you can find your why and put it into practice. So without further ado, let's get right into it. 1. How to inspire and how not to. All right. The goal here is to turn you into an inspirational leader, if you aren't one already. Before that can happen, though, you need to understand what inspiration actually is and how it works. And to understand inspiration, it's best to first understand its opposite. Sinek identifies two main ways to influence the behavior of others, whether they're your employees or customers: inspiration and manipulation. And while companies want to be inspirational, many of them are actually manipulative. Mind you, manipulation here doesn't mean brainwashing people into buying products or anything. It refers to a strategy of laying out incentives. Basically, it means the carrot and the stick. Just think of the plethora of marketing messages you're bombarded with every day. Half off, for a limited time only, supplies limited, buy 2, get 1 free. These are anything that pushes consumers to buy, think clearance sales, advertising hype, and appeals to authority with claims like, 4 out of 5 dentists prefer Trident. Manipulation is a popular strategy, and it's effective too. The only problem is that it doesn't work over the long haul. That's because manipulation doesn't breed loyal customers. When you manipulate your customers, they come to you for the good deals, not because they like you. This becomes painfully visible in tough economic times. When you have to raise your prices, your customers will desert you for a better offer, because they never cared about you or your product in the first place. And why would they? You didn't inspire them. You just incentivized them. Okay, now let's shift to the other side of the spectrum and talk about an inspirational company. Let's talk about Apple. Apple presents us with a very interesting example, almost a mind-boggling one. Because on the face of it, there's really nothing special about the company. Apple is a corporate structure like any other. It makes computers just like Dell and Toshiba do. It also makes phones, but so does Samsung. Sure, its products are beautifully designed and work seamlessly, but so do products that other companies make. Sometimes Apple does well, sometimes not so much, and when it comes to its products or business operations, there's plenty of criticism out there. Maybe the most noteworthy knock on Apple is that it doesn't really offer any good deals on its products. For $1,000, you could get the new iPhone, or you could have 2 brand new Samsungs that do almost exactly the same things, or even more. But look closely. Apple doesn't pull any carrot and stick trickery. It doesn't offer any incentives. But when a new iPhone is released, what happens? People go crazy for it. They don't do that for Samsung's phones. It's fair to say that Apple's customers are so committed to their brand that they behave irrationally. So the big question here is, how does Apple pull that off? The short answer is that Apple is inspirational. And here's the somewhat longer one. Customers deeply care about Apple because Apple starts with why. Or, as Sinek put it in his now famous TED Talk, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. Let's dig a little deeper. 2. Apple and the Golden Circle. Northern California at the end of the 60s. There's a spirit of protest and uprising making its way throughout the state, throughout the whole country, frankly, and revolution is in the air. Young people with flowers in their hair and the occasional joint in their mouth are radically questioning those in power. They don't like the conformist, individuality-crushing ways that government and big corporations are run. In the crowd are two nerdy-looking young men, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, both of them filled with an anti-establishment spirit. They're sucking up the energy and the values around them, and it's in this historical context that Apple's spiritual core takes shape. While hippies are roaming the streets of San Francisco, another upheaval, quieter and less drug-fueled, is also taking place. The computer revolution. Technology is developing in leaps and bounds. Gone are the days of computational devices that run on punch cards and take up entire rooms, and the arrival of the personal computer is drawing near. Suddenly, it seems realistic that every American will have their own personal device in their living room. Northern California at the end of the 60s. There's a spirit of protest and uprising making its way throughout the state, throughout the whole country, frankly, and revolution is in the air. Young people with flowers in their hair and the occasional joint in their mouth are radically questioning those in power. They don't like the conformist, individuality-crushing ways that government and big corporations are run. In the crowd are two nerdy-looking young men, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, both of them filled with an anti-establishment spirit. They're sucking up the energy and the values around them, and it's in this historical context that Apple's spiritual core takes shape. While hippies are roaming the streets of San Francisco, another upheaval, quieter and less drug-fueled, is also taking place. The computer revolution. Technology is developing in leaps and bounds. Gone are the days of computational devices that run on punch cards and take up entire rooms, and the arrival of the personal computer is drawing near. Suddenly, it seems realistic that every American will have their own personal device in their living room. 3. How to start with why. Now, this all sounds pretty good, you might be thinking, and it wouldn't actually be that hard to implement. After all, how hard can it be to know why you're doing something? Well, it's a bit more complicated than you might think. Here's the catch. Even though the why should be at the very center of any company, most founders and leaders actually don't have a clue what their why is. They can tell you exactly what they do and how they do it, sure. But if you ask them why their company exists, a lot of them struggle to answer. They might mumble something about how they always wanted to start a company, or just admit they're in for the money. Or maybe they'll offer up something abstract about making the world a better place. In conclusion, Start with Why by Simon Sinek encourages us to dig deep and uncover the reasons behind our actions. By starting with why, we can inspire others, foster deeper connections, and create a lasting impact in our personal and professional lives. You can find the link to acquire a copy of this incredible book in the description below. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you found this book summary helpful, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more book summaries and self-improvement tips to help you achieve your goals and lead a more fulfilling life. And share this uplifting summary with someone who may benefit from hearing them. Leave a comment down below if you've read this book or have any other recommendations for us. And also don't forget to explore our curated playlists of book summaries covering various topics. Until next time, stay awesome and keep learning. Remember, always start with why.